Realm family, welcome to another episode of Wrestling with the Realm. I am your host, Will, and on the other side of the screen, he is the other half of the WWR Mega Powers, my guy, Brian.
Hey guys, what's up?
Today
Yeah,
we're coming at you
wait a
with,
minute. Did you say
wait,
Macho Man that time?
no, I didn't.
You didn't?
No,
No, that's good. I was like, we might have to kick the Mega Powers thing to the side. We got to come up with a new tag team. We got to kick Hogan out of there. That's
I
good.
know. I was gonna say, I don't know. We might need something new because we can't be the Mega Powers anymore. Hulk Hogan, we got to get him out of here.
We got him out. Man, we'll come up with something else. We could be the Ultimate Maniacs. Oh wait, that didn't work out either
No,
because Warrior
no,
was
it did
gone.
not.
And I don't know, for some reason the Macho Man to my Mr. Perfect Kurt Hennig just doesn't have the
No,
same ring to it as the other stuff does.
no, it does not. Um,
Ooh, I'm the Hercules to your Paul Roma, or the Paul Roma to your Hercules. The power and glory of
oh my God.
wrestling podcast. Actually, that's not bad.
No, we could do that one for sure.
Everybody will have to let us know what they think of that one. I kind of like the power and glory of that. That's actually not bad.
Yeah, uh, comments below. We need a new name. We really do because
Mm-hmm.
we might not be the Mega Powers
Yep.
anymore.
I got bad news for everybody with Power and Glory. You're not going to get any good impersonations because there's a reason why Power and Glory didn't last. But hey, I think it sounds better.
Yeah, no, it definitely does. But
All
let's
right.
get into it.
What do we got, Will?
It is another episode of our favorite series on the channel. We're doing overrated and underrated.
Mm-hmm.
We even got some we're gonna get into, and I'm really excited because I'm not holding back today. I'm usually
Oh,
pretty in the middle on
yep.
everything. Today I got some takes on some wrestlers that man, that I got a
It's
few.
been bubbling up.
I'm ready to go.
All right. All right. Will, give us our first superstar, and we'll decide if they're overrated or underrated. Who you got?
Okay, I got a guy that I personally am very high on.
Okay.
I think other people would agree, but I'll see what you think. What
Okay.
about former world heavyweight champion Damian Priest?
Oh boy. Oh man. All right. I'll go first because you said you're
Yeah,
high on already, so
I'm
I'll go
high.
first. Boy, you're hitting me with a hard one right away with Damian Priest. See, the problem is I don't. Let me ask you this: how far back, coming in last year, getting reacclimated to WWE, how much did I miss of Damian Priest before last year?
You didn't miss a whole lot. I mean, he had a match where he wrestled Miz in a zombie match at Survivor Series during the pandemic era. That was really bad.
That sounds horrible.
It was, I mean, that's going to be, oh my gosh, that is going to for sure be a match we do a review on.
Oh, oh,
Oh
good.
man,
I'm excited for it. That sounds
yeah,
terrible.
it's awful. He was kind of an up and comer. He won the US title at WrestleMania, but no gimmick, nothing really. Joins the Judgment Day with Edge and Rhea Ripley, and Edge was the leader, and then they kick him out, bring in Finn Balor, and you know the rest.
Yep.
So
Boy.
you're not missing a whole lot.
Oh man, I feel bad because of my reaction because I'm kind of torn between that because I'm like I like the Judgment Day stuff, like the Judgment Day. I like where I came in at it was kind of after Edge.
Yeah.
Um and I liked what they were doing, like that stable kind of they they scratched an itch that I feel like they needed. Boy, but Damian Priest proper by himself. You know what I'm gonna say? Ooh, I'm not gonna get to that yet. I guess the thing is with Damian Priest is when I watch him in the ring, half the time I like what I see, and the other half of the time I'm bored. And that's kind of the kiss of death for a lot of things. It's the kiss of death for a movie. If you want to make a movie that Brian's not going to like, just make it boring. And that's kind of the cardinal sin. And Damian Priest, like half the time I'm like, oh, I like that. Like I liked at Survivor Series this year, I thought that that was a pretty good match and it was entertaining and he was fun to watch and I liked it. Uh, but then I think about how hard he's being pushed for as long as he has been. And that's the part that just seems like I don't know why he was getting the push that he was because I don't know where you go with him now. Like I don't know what's left for him to do, what's left with his story. You kind of had the Terror Twins thing that was kind of working because he was getting the rub from Rhea Ripley, which is is kind of crazy when you think about it that she has gotten so big that she can give other people the rub now. Like you
Yeah.
throw her with somebody and you're getting a little something extra. Um, so now he's not going to have that because they feel like they're ending all that stuff. Do I want to see him battling for a championship again? No, I really don't. Boy, man, you hit me with a hard one right away because I don't dislike Damian Priest. Um, but there's just something that's off about him. And with as hard as he gets pushed, I can't get behind it. I'm gonna say it pains me to. He's close because he's not underrated for sure. I
No.
think Damian Priest is just a little bit overrated.
Oh,
I
that
know.
one hurts. Let me talk to
It
you about it though.
it hurts me too.
Let
Change
me
my mind, Will.
I'm gonna try here. I think Damian Priest is right now properly rated. And I know it's overrated and underrated, so come out with the gates with a
Yep.
properly rated is not controversial, but Damian Priest has been booked recently in the worst feud you could have possibly booked with Finn Balor.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
I mean, when that happened at SummerSlam, you could have done something phenomenal with that feud. And they did nothing. They sat on it for 2 months and just had them attack each other. There was no big blow off feud. Finn Balor didn't even pick up a win in the feud. And I'm pretty sure they've had a trilogy of matches now,
It
including
feels it feels like it. If they haven't, it definitely feels like they have.
yeah, where Damian Priest has done nothing but get a win. Like,
Right.
but to me, Damian Priest, in the sense of like a wrestler, is one of the best big men wrestler we have in the WWE today. He's not Drew McIntyre, but he has really good like they use the term educated feet in the WWE all the time. But he does. He some of the moves he's able to do are amazing at his size. I love the South of Heaven. I love that he has a little bit of the callback with the razor's edge.
hmm
He is much improved on the mic. I
He
mean, when
throws
he,
some Taker stuff in there. That was one of the things at Survivor Series. He was
yep,
walking the top rope, and I that did stick out. I did like that.
I think he has improved on the mic ever since he got the world championship. I think they took it off of him just as he was getting hot and over with the crowd. Like at SummerSlam, Damian Priest was like a fan favorite, and I just I don't know. You had to put the belt on Gunther. I think I would like to see Damian Priest versus Braun Breaker in the future. Like that's a match I'm like Braun Breaker's just doing nothing but fighting Ludwig Kaiser and Sheamus. Give him
Yeah,
a guy like Damian Priest. Do I think Damian Priest is going to be a main event player his whole wrestling career? No. But I think Damian Priest is just being underutilized in the position he's in right now. I mean, he did close out the second Raw on Netflix, had a great match with Finn Balor, but he just needs to completely move away from the Judgment Day. to like really hit his full potential as a wrestler, I think.
Hmm. So do do you think that beyond the Judgment Day, that the gimmick that he's been working with, do you think that he has more than that? Like, do you think that there's another gear or maybe a more authentic version of Damian Priest that might help? Because I feel like his current gimmick within the Judgment Day is so ill defined. I don't know what his the whole thing, like, is he a goth? Is he gothy? Is he not
Hmm.
gothy? Is he part
Good question.
Undertaker? Is he part, like, there's just a lot of things that are going into it where it just seems like it's not kind of ill defined, and maybe that's my perception of it, and it's not what's going on. But you're making a strong case, Will.
No, I agree with you, and that's a really good question because there is so much with Damian Priest that's like still like his ring gear, Judgment Day.
Right.
Like it looks
That,
like
yeah.
you watch him wrestle the Judgment Day guys like we have a million times over the last 3 months. He looks like a member still. Just
Right.
he is like red in his clothing now and not purple. His theme music, it's like he comes out, it's all rise still, and now like it's still all rise for the Judgment Day almost, you know. You
Right.
have to switch pieces of it up. I think there's a Damian Priest where he taps into more of like his like who he actually is as a person. Like, when
Right.
he was doing the stuff with Gunther, like from Puerto Rico, off the streets,
Yep.
he's a come up story. He's from the bottom. Like I feel like if you tap into more of that instead of I'm Undertaker Jr.,
There
then
you go.
you have more potential you can tap into with him. And he's been doing that on the mic, but the gimmick and the character stuff still is Judgment Day.
Yeah. No, see, you're you're putting into words with a finer point kind of what I was saying, and you're making a strong argument here for me to retract the overrated. You know, it's one of those things where it's like it's not his fault for this. Where, like you said, Undertaker Jr. kind of is kind of the gimmick, but that's the problem because it's just kind of the gimmick. It's not
Yeah, it's
an
not fully the
actual thing,
gimmick.
and it's not exactly what I'm about to say, but it might serve him well when Undertaker went away and came back as American Badass Taker. It's not that that was the greatest gimmick that Taker ever had, but he kind of needed it. He needed to switch up what the gimmick was
Hmm.
and kind of shift gears a little bit. And then after that run, he came back as the Dead Man, but it was a hybrid Dead Man. It was
Yeah.
more, it was a mix of everything because we got a little bit more of that real Mark in there instead of
Yeah.
just the Dead Man Undertaker. And I feel like Damian Priest might be ready for something like that, and it might help because you're not wrong. He's a good big man, and so I'm gonna throw out another superstar, and we can do a real quick overrated, underrated, and then we can circle back to Damian Priest, and you'll understand why in a second. So I'm gonna throw somebody out there,
Okay.
and we can go through this one quick. Kevin Nash, overrated or underrated?
Oh my gosh, that's so funny you bring that up because I was writing my list of overrated and underrated, and on my list is Kevin Nash.
See everybody. That's why
Yeah.
we're the power and glory of wrestling podcast.
I wasn't gonna tap into him because, you know, that's not really my timeline. Kevin
Yep.
Nash. I've seen some matches, I know of his work in the NWO but Kevin Nash to me is
Perception is reality, though. Whether, and you know what I mean, like it is for you whatever it's going to be. You know.
yeah, the same way you were struggling with Damian Priest, I'm definitely struggling with Kevin Nash. I would say properly rated,
Mm,
leaning more towards overrated
okay.
because no one's sitting there and talking about Kevin Nash being like, you know, a top like 4-3 big man of all time. He might make the top 10. He's a
Yeah,
he was a trailblazer for big men in the WWE that were kind of more like, you know, moving around the ring quicker. He wasn't like Yokozuna out there or anything, or
right,
even like Andre. No, Kevin Nash could wrestle. He could.
right. Kevin Nash goes into that skyscraper category, I guess, is kind of when you look at him, Damian Priest, Undertaker, Sid Justice slash
Hmm.
Vicious, just that big, tall, big man. See, that's I got see. Okay, can continue your thought. I interrupted you on that, but keep going, Will, because you were building to something. I feel like,
I mean, I was just thinking like I think the thing that makes me lean more towards properly rated. And I know when we're doing these things, it's hard to look at the whole body of
yeah,
work. When I think of Kevin Nash, I think of like his work in the NWO, and he had like some good mic work, some good storytelling in that. At towards the beginning, I mean, no one remembers the end of WCW. Like no
no,
one even looks at that and thinks. I mean, I know he was stuck in some absolute garbage towards the end of that when they were shutting down and Vince bought the company.
yep.
Um, but when he was Diesel, he was excellent in the ring. So I'm actually going to put him in properly rated also, probably.
Oh, Will. Now I'm disappointed in you. You do it to uh everybody. Don't worry, I'm gonna find them some of those Diesel matches, and Will have to see some of those. Um, so as soon as you say Damian Priest, for some reason, Nash popped into my head, and I'll come right out and say it like right away. And I got a feeling if my guy Jermaine is listening, Maine, you know it too, because I know you're going to be with me, buddy. He is overrated.
Really?
Like if there was like if we made a chart, oh my god, that would be so funny to do. Is to make a chart, and on one end we have one superstar, and we just have like superstars' faces like put along the chart of where on the spectrum they fall. Kevin Nash is pretty far on the overrated end to me, just based off of he gets a lot of he gets a lot of leeway because of the NWO stuff and Mike stuff, but his in ring is just it's atrocious. I mean, it's not Giant Gonzalez bad, but it is the man does not have a very deep bag at all. I mean, you can get a kick in, a punch in, a power bomb, a choke slam. Uh, wait, he sells great. No, he doesn't do that either. Boy. So for Kevin Nash, I feel like he is just the poster child of what overrated is. He got the rub from Shawn Michaels when he first came in. Um, so he had that going for him. Then you have uh, the Razor Ramon Scott Hall rub that he got, and Scott Hall is on another end of that spectrum where, for as over as he was, you could probably still make the case that he was underrated.
Oh, he's underrated.
He's a real tough case where some of those guys, it's really unfortunate and it's sad because sometimes those guys that have some of those bigger issues are some of those guys that are just so good, and it's sad when that ends. But Scott Hall had all the tools, and that was too bad for him. So Kevin Nash got a lot of rub from a lot of people to get him where he was. He was a big guy,
Yeah.
and he rode that. So I think he's just as overrated as they get. So when I circle back to Damian Priest now and I think about that, I'm going to change my rating on Damian Priest. I won't say underrated. I'll say properly rated. And I know that that's kind of a cop out for this, but I'm going to retract my overrated for him because if Kevin Nash is overrated, that's not fair to Damian Priest. Damian Priest has something else that I think he can get into, and I think you kind of hit on
Yeah.
it a little bit. If we let him be a more authentic version of himself, maybe we can get a Scott Hall, Razor Ramon Jr., but a better version of that. And I mean that in a positive way, not in
Yeah.
a bad way, like Undertaker Jr., like we said. Um, because if you let him be him, I like what you said when you have, it's the Puerto Rico, it's the scratching and clawing to get to where you are. I got to
Hmm.
fight for this. I think you
Yeah.
have something there, kind of little Savio Vega sprinkled in there. Um, I think I think that you may have changed my mind. And going over Kevin Nash real quick, who sticks out in my mind like a sore thumb with that. That's not fair to Damian Priest. Damian Priest, overrated,
Reverse, reverse.
retracted. I'm taking it back. Taking it back, everybody. In the words of Mouth from the Goonies, taking it back. I'm taking them all back. Taking it back, baby.
It's funny you bring up the Shawn Michaels thing. Really, my only experience with Kevin Nash is I remember watching the Shawn Michaels matches. And I guess Michaels could make a broom look good in a wrestling ring.
Yeah, 100%.
So, and I just remember all the NWO stuff. So maybe that's like my really only experience with Kevin Nash. I guess I'll have to really tap into some of his other matches to
You
really
know,
see his in ring work.
it's Rumble season, um, which as a kid, Royal Rumble was always one of my favorite pay-per-views. I love the Royal Rumble. I have very vivid memories. And just watching Royal Rumble and just being so excited when that clock would tick down. Um, but that being said, talking about Royal Rumble, it's Rumble season. Go back and watch or find some clips of Diesel back in the 90s and some of those Royal Rumbles that he was in. And those are where he really gets exposed a little bit, where you see him uh, with multiple people and he has to have that endurance to go through the Rumble. And you can see why he has to work the way he does because he doesn't have a whole lot to give. Um, the Royal Rumble is interesting that way. It you really get to see who the company has a lot of faith in and they trust with stuff,
Hmm.
and who they don't, or who doesn't have as much in the tank as some of the other guys do. And like you could watch those same Royal Rumbles with Kevin Nash and you can see Undertaker in there and again, two big skyscraper guys and you see two
Yeah.
totally different worlds. And yeah, Kevin Nash overrated, but
I'm gonna
taking
take
it
your word
back, taking it back for Damian Priest.
for it. All right, Brian, you guys with our next one. Who are we gonna deem
Boy.
rated or underrated?
All right, Will, I'm throwing it out there.
Oh gosh, here we go.
We have our inaugural first ever women's intercontinental champion, Lyra Valkyria. Will, is she underrated or overrated?
Oh gosh,
If you
it's
guys like Lyra Valkyria, you might want to
just
either
fast.
you know what, stick around is what I'll say. That's what you need
Yeah,
to do. If you really like her, stick around.
Lyra Valkyria is just boring.
Yep,
She is the at this moment the worst version possible of like a Becky Lynch. I
100%.
and you want to know what? I was gonna get on her for her in ring capability. You want to know what? The EO Sky. Everyone's gonna say, but the EO Sky matches. The EO Sky is the same way that we were talking about Shawn Michaels and Diesel, and Shawn Michaels could make anyone look good in the ring.
Yep,
EO Sky is the same way. But you want to know what?
100%.
The Dakota Kai match wasn't even that bad. I'm not gonna get on her for her wrestling, even though she does have some moments where you're like, man, that was sloppy. You could probably do that once or twice a match with her. The character, and maybe that's not her fault, but anytime you put a mic in her hand, anytime you go to her backstage, there is just nothing there. like I couldn't tell you one memorable moment of her on the mic where I'm like, man,
Hmm.
she really went out there. She really got him. Like, I don't know, maybe that's what this title's for, to give her that opportunity to do so. But I feel like she's had it in the past. Like when she was NXT Women's Champion, like the build up to that Roxanne Perez match, not good. Like I I don't know. I just, and people will like, and the excuse is like, well, Io Sky's not, like, the character's not great. And people will say, well, she's just as good in the ring.
Ooh,
One, no, she's not.
ooh,
Two, Io Sky's character is better than Lyra Valkyria's.
100%.
Like, that's why they trusted her with that title and the Money in the Bank, because like she still played a good heel. Lyra could not play a good heel. She couldn't play a good face. I'm interested to see what she's gonna do with this title. Um, I don't know if you want to expand on any of those topics,
Mm.
because me and you both feel the same way.
Oh,
Spoiler alert.
boy, I'm gonna take a breath. Okay, Will, I will go after her in-ring capabilities.
Okay, do it.
Unlike you, I
Do it.
will do that. Boy, and when we talk about overrated, underrated, sometimes we get into people like a Damian Priest where it's a really hard one because you factor in a lot of things. Everybody's list can be different. There's no right answers or wrong answers in this. Um, and like when I factor it in, when I'm looking at overrated, underrated, I look at uh, how hard of a push have you been getting or getting, like right now? Like, have you been getting it in the past, or are you actively being pushed? How long have you been around for? Um, how long has the push been going? Title reigns, all that kind of stuff. Where you are in the card, and are you deserving of that? Does it seem like it's a little bit too much? So for Lyra Valkyria, she checks a lot of boxes where I go, she has a much shorter time that she's been around. And from all I can remember, is she has been pushed to the moon hard. In NXT, they were pushing her and they were trying everything they could do. So from the moment she wrestled Becky Lynch for the NXT championship until now is where I'm kind of starting my timeline with her. And at that NXT championship match versus Becky Lynch, um, my wife and I are watching it. And when my wife is starting to pick out things in the match, because she's looking at some of the technical things, she's seeing it as a brand new person who's watching it. So stuff's going to stand out. So when you see Lyra Valkyria and you see her getting winded or you see her being sloppy, especially on NXT when you have other matches before that in a stacked women's division where you have people showing out, it really puts a spotlight on her. And that match with Becky Lynch was sloppy. It was not good. Um, and you have Becky Lynch trying to do that. I'm not high on Becky Lynch to begin with, but you put Lyra Valkyria in that spot. It's a big spot, and you shouldn't have people who are casual viewers tuning into that and asking a lot of questions why this person is going over. And she gets blown up in matches quickly. It's kind of surprising that she gets blown up so quickly and she's looking for breath. You can tell you get to the end of the match, she has trouble doing her finish. It's almost like every match you watch her, by the time she's getting to the finish, she seems to struggle a little bit. Now, maybe she is an amazing actress in the ring and she's selling that, how hard she's working. I'm not ready to give her that much credit yet. Um, she's not the most crisp on her in-ring work. In the match that you were just talking about against Dakota Kai, that was, I would call that a mildly sloppy match. I thought that there was some things that were not very sharp in that, but she had one really good spot. She had the suplex to the outside. It was a really good spot. I said it at the time to myself. I was like, okay, good. She got a really good spot and she took a good bump. That was good. Everything else that she does is milk toast and not great. She She wins the match to advance to the finals, and she has the horrible acting of turning to the referee and doing the, oh, me? I won. Did I really get the 3 count? Did I do it? It's over the top, and it's not entertaining. It's too much. Her gimmick, I don't know what her gimmick is. They tried really, really hard on Monday night to kind of give some context to it. She's a raven. She's blah blah. No, she's not. She's not. It's a horrible thing. She's trying to do something with her hands now and get people do. Don't Will. Don't do that.
Whatever that
Don't
is.
ever do that.
Whatever that is.
Don't. Yeah. Don't do that. DDP. I think you call that
Yeah, we should.
somewhere. DDP is like, oh, she could come do my yoga class, but I don't know why she's throwing up my symbol. Um, it's I just I can't with her, and the fact that they put the IC championship on her, it disheartens me a little bit because I don't get why she's being pushed so hard. She's not that great. You have a lot of other people that are much better in the ring than she is. And I get it. It's a mid card championship. It's the same thing with the US women's title. But when we look at that, you go, okay, I get why they're putting the title on Chelsea Green. You at least have something there. Like you could go way back and people kind of want to root for Chelsea Green because of where she's started and where she's gotten to. But I feel like she's probably put in a lot of work to get there. Lyra Valkyria just comes out and all of a sudden she just gets pushed to the moon. And there's nothing there's nothing about her at this point that can make her anything than horribly, horribly overrated. And I know that that sounds uber harsh. Maybe a lot of these things, as far as gimmick go and stuff, aren't on her. But the in ring work is on her. And I shouldn't be able to tune into NXT and see a bunch of other women's division matches that are substantially better than hers, who's now the inaugural women's IC champion. That's the part that really kind of sticks in my craw. If she was just a mid carder, just going out having matches, I wouldn't feel as passionately about it. But the fact that you guys you put the belt on her, like where are we going from here? So how many other better wrestlers are we going to put her in the ring with that she's going to come out on top? And before anybody comes at me and says, "Oh, but you love Liv Morgan and she doesn't work that great in the ring," you're right. She makes up for it with everything else. As a whole, she can make up for her deficiencies in the ring by the character that she's playing, the story that she's in, the selling that she does, and she can get heat. Doesn't matter if you get heat, whatever way you get it, as long as you get it, it works and it counts. So I'm deeming Lyra Valkyria, the WWR biggest stamp that we have, overrated. Will, what about you? What do you got for her?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest one we got.
Yep.
That being said,
Okay.
like, I do I see something there? Maybe. Maybe in the future she can, because there is some stuff in the ring. I'm like, okay, like if she just cleans it up, the pinning exchanges are cool. I love pinning exchanges at the beginning of a match. If she cleans it up, it'd be cool. Her finisher isn't awful. If she sticks to more like suplex based wrestling and
Mm-hmm.
keeps it off the high flying stuff, maybe in the ring she can improve. But I mean, she needs to work with people at WWE to get her a new character.
Yeah,
That's the big
100%.
thing.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
I think you're right. I think a lot of it is, um, and by the way, we could always come back and revisit and change these. Heck, I did it in this episode already. We can
yeah,
change these overrated, underrated, but right now it's too much too soon for her, and it's too much. It's of just there's nothing. It's the part that I don't get how we push her so hard. I would love to know. I would love to talk to like Shawn Michaels and ask him, okay, what is it that you see that you feel like has to be pushed as hard as it is? I mean, because take a look at the same. You got Tiffany Stratton on one side. She was in NXT at the same time as
Yeah,
Lyra Valkyria was. There is nobody on God's green earth who could look at those two and not say that Tiffany Stratton is clearly in all aspects of what she's doing, just light years ahead of Lyra Valkyria. Again,
absolutely.
Tiffany Stratton is special. That's fine. But Lyra Valkyria, there's not a whole lot that's going on there. And on a similar note, it's like Roxanne Perez, who I'm not going to give an underrated or overrated for her because we're not there yet with her, but she's an NXT mainstay, and I feel like she does quite well at NXT. She's another person who she has limitations, but she tries to make up for it in other ways. And I go, okay, she's slotted right where she probably should be because she's not getting this huge push. I don't get how Lyra Valkyria gets graduated from NXT and just put into big spots. That's just it boggles my mind. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
Yeah, me either. Now that we've absolutely dunked on Lyra Valkyria, we can move on.
Yep. And
Um,
and like I said, we may come back and change that someday. These are just,
you want to know what? I really do want to come back and change this
I do
because
too.
I want to reverse it and like a year from now we come back and we do this. I'll throw her in there and I'll give
Mhm.
her all the praise, hopefully.
And it's interesting that when we take Damian Priest and Lyra Valkyria, those are two people who one of the biggest sticking points for me, at least, is the gimmick and the character that they're portraying and that kind of stuff, because that's a big, big part of professional wrestling. So it's weird that both of those people, I take that into a lot of consideration when I think about it. And both of them, like with Damian Priest, you set it up perfectly of if you just take him in a little different direction, I think it fixes a lot of the issues that people might have of thinking he's bland. And Lyra Valkyria is the same exact way. It's the in-ring stuff may get cleaned up, but it also may look a lot better right now if she was packaged a little bit differently. Because the over the top aw shucks thing, it doesn't work. It comes off as fake and silly. And maybe if she can get, it's not unlike when I see the origins of Becky Lynch, and she comes out dancing like a leprechaun or whatever that was back in the day, and you go, okay, well that's horrible. That is a very bad decision to do for her or anybody. So maybe Lyra Valkyria is the same way. Maybe she can get to a point where she breaks out of whatever this character is, and we come back. I would love that. I don't try to dunk on her for fun. I expect more when you're pushing somebody so hard, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
Yeah.
All right. I got a good one for my next one. I really think you're gonna enjoy this one.
Okay, good. I hope it's an underrated because I've been negative Nelly over here.
Oh, I think for me it is because I think he's got big things coming in
Okay.
2025.
Okay.
So I was watching SmackDown on Friday and Jimmy Uso comes out.
Okay.
Good reaction, good pop. And all of a sudden he gets in the ring and he's wrestling Carmelo Hayes, which some episode down the line we'll get to Carmelo Hayes.
Yes.
Um, and I'm like, he throws him up for a suplex and then hits him with a neck breaker out of it. And I'm like, man, Jimmy Uso is better in the ring than Jey Uso is.
Oh, Will, I'm going to stop you just for a second. I was going through my mind of who I was going to throw out on this episode, and one of the first people that popped in my mind, and I was like kind of trying to shake it out, like, no, 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 was Jey Uso, is
Ooh,
who I was thinking. So you bringing up Jimmy now, again, that's kind of, again, everybody, is why we're power and glory here. We're like tag team specialists here. But
yeah.
yeah, with Jimmy Uso, keep going. I just wanted to let you know that I was feeling you with Jay. I was thinking about it.
I was thinking about him too, but I was like, man, let's do Jimmy because They did a one of those. He's walking out to the ring promos, and they got the camera following him, and he hits the big Jim is him. Dude, t-shirts are gonna be made.
Yeah.
That's a good one. That is a good one. Whoever came up with that,
Yep.
good work. I think Jimmy Uso is on his way to being underrated. When he got kicked out the bloodline, right? And he was trying to get his way back into the bloodline after the he came out and attacked Jay at SummerSlam 2 years ago now. He had great character work. Like he was trying to like suck up to Roman,
Hmm.
and like I just remember some of this backstage stuff was great. He is a really good character. He's not Jey Uso. He's not.
No.
And they need to not have him be no yeet. Like you can't just be no yeet. Like
Right.
that's not it. But if they really work on his character, he's good in the ring. I think we might be on the way to maybe like a Jimmy Uso Nakamura feud for the US title. I
Yep.
think that's where we're going. Um I think in the ring he's better than Jay. I think he got a lot of bad rep because the last big match he had on pay-per-view was that awful super kick fest between him
Oh
and
God,
um,
yes.
Jimmy and Jay.
Yeah.
But in the ring, when he's just, he had a good tag match with Cody. Like,
Yep.
I just think there's a lot of potential there with the character itself. You have a catchphrase you can roll with, Big Jim is him,
Yep.
and you have like a lot of built-in feuds. Once again, he's just got to get away from the bloodline though. He's got to get away from it. And until I mean Roman Reigns finishes whatever he's working towards, like I we're not going to get into the whole Rock thing. We'll
No.
we'll go but like until that match probably happens, he's just going to be a pawn in that storyline. I think Jimmy Uso is underrated though.
All right. Hands down.
Hands down.
100%.
Oh yeah. Oh, for sure. I watched him in the ring and I was just like, man, he's got it. They just got to work on the character a little bit because ever since they broke the Usos up, he's just at first he was just like a hater.
Yep.
He was following Jay wherever he was, costing him big matches. Then he was no yeet, just piggybacking off Jay Uso. And now he's kind of in this weird spot. And maybe I should have saved this one. Maybe we can come back to it later in a couple months when he's had some more character work and more matches to build into it. But I just had to get it out right now because I'm like, man, these last few weeks I've really been enjoying Jimmy Uso on SmackDown doing his own thing. And that's kind of like you look at some of the greatest tag teams of all time, like the Usos were.
Yep.
You look at Edge and Christian, you look at the Hardy Boys. You break those guys apart. They do great individual work. Is he going to be Jey Uso level of popular? No, never. Like, it's Jey Uso might be the most overact in wrestling right now. But if he is half of that, like, there's a world where he goes and beats Nakamura for the US title because people want to see it.
Right. And I'm so glad that you brought this up because this is a really good one. Like, this feels like the most pure version of overrated, underrated that we've done so far. So I love that you brought up Jimmy Uso because I wasn't thinking that. And, shame on me that my first thought when I think about this episode is I go to Jay, and we won't even do Jay because that's not a fair one to do right now because I'll go back to what I just said about lyra valkyria. It doesn't matter how you get over and you get heat. You can get heat, or in Jay's case, yeet. Hey, is that what yeet means? Is it his version of heat?
Maybe it is, man. Maybe it is.
Because
I don't
I'll be
know.
darned if that is straight up it works for him, and he can work in the ring. He's not bad in the ring or anything like that. Like, so he's making up for any deficiencies that people might have. He makes up with pure charisma and getting over. So we won't even get into Jay. He popped in my head. You hit on the real gold mine, which is Jimmy. And I haven't really thought about it, but when you were just saying, uh, when you think about great tag teams in the past, when we go through, the first thing that popped in my head with Jimmy and Jay, the Rockers, Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty. Like it's kind of crazy when you stop and think about it because when the Rockers were doing their thing, they had, well, the Rockers never got the tag title except when they beat the Hart Foundation, and then we acted like it didn't happen, yada yada. Um, so they didn't carry the gold and all that kind of stuff like the Usos did. But when you think about in ring and all that kind of stuff, they're not the big huge guys or any of that kind of stuff. They kind of work kind of how the Rockers did as quote tag team specialists, high flying, quick maneuvers, in sync, all that kind of stuff. Um, and then when you take it in their singles role, Jay really does have that Shawn Michaels thing of clearly you had charisma and all of those intangibles that can get over with a crowd. And Jay kind of does that. But when you look at Jimmy, you're right. His in-ring stuff, it's it's different than Jay. He can
Yeah,
do some different things, and I think that's why the Super Kick Fest was so disappointing for everybody at Mania because
yeah,
you didn't get to
absolutely.
see a difference between those two guys. And when the Rockers broke up, and you go, okay, that's a great. That is one of the greatest moments in professional wrestling when the Rockers broke up on the barbershop and Marty Jannetty takes the super kick through the glass because boy did history of wrestling that changed everything with that moment. Um, More because of Marty Jannetty's problems than it is anything with Shawn for the most part. Um, but here we have a Shawn Michaels and a Marty Jannetty and Jimmy and Jay. Jimmy doesn't have all the demons that Marty does. So what can we do with this? Because he can be his own guy. Like Marty Jannetty could have been like that. He could have had a great singles run. I still feel like that because he was good in the ring. He was over. He had charisma in a different way than Shawn did, and those two could have made a lot of money. And Marty just couldn't help himself. So when I look at Jimmy, it's that same thing where I go, we're in that same situation now. I hope he gets used properly because he is different from Jay. It's not just a cookie cutter same thing. He's different enough. He can do different things in the ring and he's good at it that I hope he gets put into a program that can kind of show that off and he can kind of solidify himself. Because right now, I feel like Jay got solidified as a singles wrestler, but Jimmy
Mm,
never has. Like they never solidified him after the breakup that he's a singles guy. It hasn't
yeah,
happened yet. And maybe, just maybe, the Royal Rumble is what he needs to have a good showing in the Rumble, do some things there, and then pick up some traction going forward. And you are right on with what I was thinking that you could put him into a program in that mid card for a US title. Like that's right where he probably should be. And I think that would be gangbusters. I do think that he has something else that he can give and it's different. And that's what makes it good is because he's
yeah,
different. He's different than Jay. And maybe down the road, you can have those two have a round two and it can be better once you establish Jimmy doing his thing.
yeah,
So I'm with you. I'm giving him the WWR stamp of underrated, and it feels
yeah.
good to say that. That's a good
No,
one.
that was a good one. All right, what do you got? You got a few more?
Oh boy, oh boy. Let's see. I don't know if I want to stay a little bit more positive. You know what? I always like to throw in a blast from the past. I always like to do that and throw in somebody from back in yesteryears. I'm going to take the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. Is the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, underrated or overrated? I think going back, just one, he never had the world championship, which is kind of crazy. Had it for like a few days after he like bought it from Andre the Giant in that storyline with Hogan, which again they should have done more with that because it was really good. In ring, really good. Character wise, hard to get a better heel at that time than Ted DiBiase. He was able to transition into tag work. You had a great tag team with him and IRS, Money Inc. It does like everything worked for those guys. Held tag gold though. They were tag champions. I feel like he's one of the greatest heels ever. He I don't ever remember him ever having a face run. He was always a heel, and it was always that same gimmick, but that gimmick worked for years and years because everybody's got a price for the $1 million man. It didn't matter if you were the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, Sapphire. Where's Sapphire? Everybody seen Sapphire. When Sapphire is missing because, oh baby, I'm looking for Sapphire. I haven't seen her. She's missing me. Me and G, she's missing. I don't know where she is. You know, Virgil finally stands up to him with his as hard as he pushes Virgil, and then you finally get that blow off where Virgil just can't take it anymore. The match wasn't great that those two had, but just a great storyline that just long form storytelling that they would do with him, and it always worked. He was a lot like Jake the Snake, where you didn't have to put a title on him. He was one of those guys. He got heat like nobody's business. So Ted DiBiase, underrated all the way. What do you think, Will?
Oh yeah, I have to agree with that. To say I'm like super familiar with the in-ring work is I'm not. I've seen a few matches. Unfortunately, the one I watched all the way through is the Virgil one, and
Uh,
it's not his best work, but there's plenty of other matches you can point to that he had that were good. I I have to agree with you, man. There is just not many better. I mean, he is really like the vignettes and the backstage work. He's one of the best of all time at that. Like just the character. He didn't need a change. He's one of those guys. I know we talk about these guys that don't need the
yep.
world championship. They would just walk around and have their. I mean, first of all, he made the $1 million belt.
Oh, I forgot. Yes, the $1 million
Like
belt.
that was his world championship. He didn't need a
Yep.
championship. He was just. I mean, and then there's just so many like feuds you could point to with him that like in the ring they might have not been the best, but like just he is one of those guys that could just build a story. So I would have to agree with you. Ted DiBiase, underrated.
Oh, that feels good to be in agreement. Two in a row
Yes,
that we're in agreement on. I love it.
his son, awful,
Yeah,
overrated.
what happened with that? So I saw they were trying to do some stuff with like him and Cody back in the day when they came out, which on paper makes like the most sense ever. Was he just that bad that they couldn't get any
Oh,
traction
they
with that?
love
Because on paper, it sounds like a great idea. You got the
it.
son of Dusty and the son of Ted DiBiase. Like it seems like that would just make money.
They figured out he couldn't really work the mic. He was okay in the
Oh,
ring, and then he got caught up in some stuff outside of wrestling, and
okay.
I don't know what he's doing right now. I'm pretty sure he got in trouble for something, but I mean, they thought he was the guy and not Cody.
Mm,
Like he was the
boy.
next guy up. Legacy with Randy Orton. Randy Orton
Oh,
led the
okay.
group,
Yep.
and um, Ted DiBiase Jr. was in there, and Cody was in there. The only guy to not make it out of that group, which was crazy because you hear the stuff. I mean, Cody goes and on podcasts tells stories. He was like, "Yeah, they thought Ted was next up, like he was the next big thing in wrestling, but nowhere to be found."
Boy, that's kind of wild that his mic work is what was killing him because that's where his dad just excelled. Like you couldn't
Oh yeah,
like it was just it was a different time, but it was so good. And in a time of over the top gimmicks, his was one of the best ones that just he was omnipresent as a heel. And if you ever needed to get a little bit of heat, you could put him in to the program and it always worked. I want to throw a little bit of love at the $1 Million Man. You're
Well
underrated.
deserved. Well deserved
Yeah.
love.
Yeah. You got one more, Will?
I got one more. I'm trying to think
Okay.
about where I want to go with this. It's funny you brought up Roxanne Perez. I had her on my list.
Oh,
Um, but I think I'm gonna go in a different direction. Um, what are your thoughts on the Celtic Warrior, Sheamus?
oh my God. You're freaking me out today, Will, because I thought about Sheamus for like 2 days, putting him
Yeah.
on this list, and I stayed away from it because I haven't seen enough of Sheamus. I mean, he just came back into the
Mhm.
picture.
Yeah.
Was that after Mania when he came? It was after Mania when he came back,
Yeah.
right? I'm pretty sure.
Mhm.
So, um, I all I have from him is just my passing knowledge over the last 20 years of seeing him in commercials or on promotional stuff, not really watching or knowing. So all that I could really see from him, he is a big boy who I didn't know anything else about him. Seeing him now, I'm I'm fine with Sheamus. But again, I have a feeling this is a much different version of Sheamus. From the work that I've seen him do, I've his work seems pretty good. He's another one of those big guys who seems like he can move pretty good. He sells pretty good, and I believe it when he does things because he's just such a big kind of like he kind of reminds me of. He kind of reminds me of Bradshaw back in the Attitude Era when
Mhm.
Bradshaw would come out, and it's just
Yeah.
like
Okay. Good
come
take.
marching out there, knees knocking, just big clothesline from hell, and just a big bruising dude who you're like, this is one big SOB, and it's not flashy or fancy, but it'll be a slobber knocker. So that's the vibe that I give off of Sheamus. I don't feel like I can give him an underrated or overrated because I honestly just haven't seen enough of him, but I'm totally cool with him right now. He popped in my head because I go, this guy was a world champion. That's the part that
Mhm.
kind of is wild to me because I don't know how any of those feuds went or anything that he had to know if that was warranted or not. But from what I've seen right now, I I don't have any problems with Sheamus. I think him and Ludwig Kaiser, I feel like those are pretty good matches.
Yeah. Anytime they wrestle, it's good.
So I am going to do the horribly unfun thing and just defer this and not have a rating because it wouldn't be fair. So you're gonna have to fill me in, Will. What do you think?
You kind of hit it on the head when you said that like he came back and you could tell this wasn't the same version of him. He's working there. Not much has really changed with his in-ring work outside of his speed. He used to be a lot faster in the ring.
That makes sense.
Sheamus is just the definition of underrated. Like
Okay.
every aspect of like the most underrated part of him is his mic work. Like he has had good feuds where he has done great things on the mic. He was underrated. He was in a tag team called The Bar,
Okay.
and he
Who
was
was
with
in it?
Cesaro. I don't even.
Oh, I don't know Cesaro.
So
Is
okay,
that
so
a pizza place?
it sounds like it. It
Okay.
sounds like it. He's in AEW now. He's like Claudio, I think his name is.
Hmm.
But man, the bar was legit. That's something we're gonna have to go when we do our match watch alongs.
Yep.
A few bar matches because the bar was phenomenal. He's just Sheamus is hard hitting.
Yeah.
He was quick on his feet back in the day, and like you could just go through. I mean, there's no like off the top of my head, there's no bad Sheamus matches. Like his feud with Gunther. Have you seen the Gunther Sheamus match at Clash at the Castle?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, to me
Yeah.
that's one of the best matches I've ever watched in my life
It
because
was
it's
good. It was good.
because it was two dudes just really
Yeah.
throwing hands at each
Yep.
other. And he was talking on a podcast and he was like, that's what I love about this. Like I'm gonna go out there, and if you're not going to hit me, I'm gonna make sure you do because I'm gonna hit you as hard as I can. And that physical style of wrestling isn't something I'm usually a huge fan of. But like Sheamus and Gunther are two dudes that do it the right way.
Yes,
Like,
100%.
and it's believable when they hit hard.
Yeah. Yep, I
So,
would agree.
and he got pushed. He was kind of one of those guys you're like, "Oh wow." He got pushed right out the gate. He came in, he won the WWE Championship, first title he won. It took him like
Okay.
3 months off John Cena,
Wow. Okay.
and people were super like, "No, I don't like." When something's forced on you, you're usually
Hmm.
not gonna want it.
Lyra Valkyria.
Yep, exactly. And it wasn't in the same breath because Sheamus was still amazing in the ring. He beat Daniel Bryan in like 5 seconds at WrestleMania. Like
Oh, a
hit him with a
squash match. Wow.
yeah, hit him with a brogue kick, 1, 2, 3, and he is still like those were two instances with the fans right out the gate of his career where they were like, "Man, we're not sure about this Sheamus guy," and he was able to turn that around with his wrestling and the feuds he was able to produce, and like like completely change the narrative. We're gonna look back on Sheamus one day and like be like, man, he is one of those guys, like just the most underrated that you could. So Lyra Valkyria, biggest stamp of overrated. Sheamus, biggest stamp of underrated.
All right. I will agree with you for now because I trust you
Yes.
because of power and glory. Um, and from what I've seen, those are my initial thoughts. Like my first thought when I see Sheamus is, boy, if this was 1990, 1991, that dude would have been over like Rover because his look is so um unique that it feels like a throwback from that time where everybody's gimmicks were over the top. But yeah, I have no qualms with Sheamus. I'm glad that you're saying he is the biggest stamp of underrated. That kind of makes me feel good because that's what my heart and my head were telling me without being super educated about him.
Yeah. And one final super quick note:
Yep.
10 beats of the Bowerin, brogue kick, Celtic cross as your signature moves. Coolest three-piece signature move you could have. The move set for Sheamus is awesome.
I feel like after going through Lyra Valkyria, um, I hope we weren't too harsh on her. I'd love to come back someday and reevaluate her. Uh, but it feels good with Sheamus that it's kind of the opposite. That you have somebody who knows all the ins and outs of Sheamus, and you have me who's not as familiar, but in my head wanted to feel the way that you were saying. So that means something that he does something
Yeah.
right because that's the way that I wanted to feel. I was hoping you were going to tell me he was underrated. I honestly was going to feel a little bit bad if you said he was overrated. So, what else you got? You got any more, or you feel good?
Um, I feel good. Do you got any more? You got one more,
I,
maybe?
I, I have one more, and it's one more that we haven't gotten to yet, but we already did Lyra Valkyria, so we're gonna hang on to that other one in our pocket for now. I feel like we're gonna hold
Okay.
on to
All
it.
right. All right. Sounds
We're
good.
gonna get enough comments about Lyra Valkyria. We don't need to do another one.
No, no. We're good. We are good on that.
But hey, if you feel that strongly about we're wrong about Lyra Valkyria, I do want to know because I want to know what we're missing. Because maybe we're just missing it. I mean, that happens all the time where
Yeah.
somebody could very well say, "Oh yeah, well you guys didn't know about X, Y, and Z about her," and then everything comes into focus. And I get it. So if you guys got that, let us know. I would love to know what we're missing about it. But if you agree with us, definitely tell us that because we feel like we're out on an island here. Whenever
No,
we talk about her, we always feel like we're the only ones.
but you want to know the problem with that? People are going to go in the comments talking about NXT UK Lyra Valkyria, and I don't want to hear it because
No, that doesn't
you
count.
didn't watch NXT UK either.
Nope.
You did not. Don't
No.
tell me about some match she had on the Indies. Like,
Yep.
she can't be that much better than what I'm seeing on TV right now.
Yeah. If you don't got anything else, Will send us off.
All right. Hey, thank you if you made it this far in the video. for tuning in to another episode of Wrestling with the Realm. Shout out the Realm Paranormal Podcast. We appreciate all of our viewers. Brian, what you got?
Yeah, you made it from the Realm Paranormal Podcast. If you guys have any ideas for us that you think, let us know. We'll jump on some of that. Ooh, I got one that we should do one day is like can kind of do a crossover like most paranormal gimmicks and how that
Oh,
stuff worked. Like we would have a whole like
that would
we
be
could
a
make
good episode.
we could make like the realm stable of gimmicks over the years.
Hmm.
It'd be like Papa Shango would be it. Like it would be pretty cool.
The
Actually, that's actually a really
Boogeyman.
cool idea. I'm gonna have to
Yeah,
float that. That'd be really cool.
let's do it. Let's do it. So, hey, keep on the lookout for new content dropping soon. Leave comments of ideas you guys want to see. That would be super helpful for me coming up with new ideas. Because right now I'm thinking about what the people want to see. So whatever you guys see, comment it below. Till next time, guys.
Yep.
We'll see ya.
For Will, I'm Brian. We'll catch you guys next time on Wrestling with the Realm podcast. Peace out, guys.